Hello again, back into index laws. In this section I want to do the 7th index law, and that's to do with negative indices. Oop, I can't spell. That's why I'm a maths teacher. Indices. Okay, negative indices. And I spoilt the party a bit in the last video where I said, I'll just draw it again because it's important to see. So that's 27, 3 squared is 9, 3 to the power 1 is 3, 3 to the power 0 we learnt was 1, and we can see these are just dividing by 3 each time. What's 1 divided by 3? That'll be 1/3. So 3 to the power negative 1 is 1/3. 3 to the power negative 2, what happens if you divide that by 3? You get 1/9. So that's 1/3 squared. 3 to the power negative 3, what happens if you divide that by 3? You get 1/27, which is 1/3 cubed. So you can see this nice little, I'll just write this so you can see the symmetry. 1/9. Can you see the symmetry here? 1/9, 1/9, 1/27, 1/27, etc., etc. So you can see what is going on. And so hopefully you can see that when you have a negative indice, negative power, what it does is it just flips that fraction upside down. So you've got 3, which is 3/1. What that goes to, if you apply a negative indice into it, is 1/3. If you've got 3 to the power negative 2, what that does is it flips it upside down. Instead of 3 negative 2/1, what ends up being is 1/3 squared. So you can see that negative just flips things upside down. Okay. If you've got 2/3 to the power negative 1, what that does is flips the whole fraction upside down. In other words, the 2 goes to the bottom, the 3 comes to the top. It flips it upside down. Everything gets swapped around. Okay. And so what the index law is it says, index law number 7, is that a to the power negative n, so a to the power negative n is equal to 1/a to the power n. In other words, the negative, all it does is it flips it upside down. And so let's just get straight into some examples. I'll do several of these just to make sure about our understanding. So let's have a look at what is 2 to the power negative 2 equal to. Alright, now so the negative flips it upside down, so it'll be 1/2 squared. So the negative puts it to the bottom line and you're left with just 2 squared on the bottom line. 1/2 squared is 1/4, and so 2 to the power negative 2 is 1/4. Okay, do a couple of these because it's just really good to see. Let's do 2/7 to the negative, I don't want to do 3, it will be too big, negative 2 again. Okay, so what is this equal to? What this does is that negative effectively just flips it upside down. So the next step that you could write is to flip that fraction upside down and then just have a positive power there. So the negative power, all it's done is flip it upside down. This is then equal to, remember your index laws, 7 squared over 2 squared, which is 49/4. So that whole thing there is just 49/4. I'll just do another numerical example before getting onto sort of more algebraic ones. Let's do, oh no, I can't do those yet. Let's do, no, pretty much, there's nothing really left to say. I'll just do another one. 5 to the negative 3. What would that be equal to? Well, again, that means 1/5 cubed, because that puts the negative, puts it on the bottom line, is 1/125. Okay, let me just do some algebraic examples of this particular sort. Okay, so let's do 2a to the power negative 3b squared. Okay, if you're asked to rewrite this in with no negative powers, that's what the question will often say. Write this with no negative powers. In other words, we don't like this negative power here. Rewrite it. Okay, well, the 2 stays on the top line as it is, and the b squared stays on the top line. But what this negative does is it forces that a cubed onto the bottom line. And so you can see that negative power, that forces it down to the bottom line of the fraction, and then it becomes a positive power. So that is correct. That's what they're asking you to do. Okay, let's just do a very similar one. Negative 3a squared b all to the power of negative 2. Let's have a look at this. Now, a couple of ways you could go about this. You can apply index law number, I think it's 4, where that negative 2 goes to each of these one at a time, or you can apply the whole thing. And it doesn't, I'll just do it this way because we're talking about powers. What does this negative do? It forces it to the bottom line. So this whole thing, negative 3a squared b, that whole thing will go to the bottom line with a squared there. Okay, so that negative 2 becomes a positive 2, but it's gone to the bottom line. It's flipped it upside down. Let's have a look at this. What happens when you raise a bunch of things multiplied together to a power? Each of those things gets that power. So it's 1 over negative 3 squared, a squared squared, and b squared. Okay, it goes to each of those things, which is equal to 1 over negative 3 squared is 9, a squared squared is a times 2 times 2, which is 4, b squared. There's your answer there. Okay, so negative powers flip things upside down. Okay, 2x over 5y squared to the power negative 3. Let's try that. Okay, so firstly, let's deal with that negative. The negative flips things upside down. So that's equal to 5y squared over 2x to the power positive 3. Okay, negative flips it upside down. Once we've dealt with this, now let's just even out that, deal out this power here. Okay, so this is equal to the 6th index law, I think it is, 5y squared to the power 3 over 2x to the power 3. Alright, that's the next index law. Now let's apply another index law. The 3, when things are multiplied together in brackets, the 3 goes to each part. So the top line will be 5 cubed y squared cubed. That's the top line. On the bottom line, that 3 goes out to everything as well. That's 2 cubed times x cubed. Simplify up, 5 cubed is 125. Y squared cubed is y to the power 6 over 2 cubed is 8x cubed, and there's your answer there. Okay, so when dealing with negatives, all we have to do, first thing to do, flip it upside down. That will get rid of the negative, and then apply your index laws just as you would have done previously. And that's it for negative indices.